Now let's turn to an Egyptian story just for a change. Isis and the body of Osiris. It is a vast myth. As I mentioned to you, I will address a detail. I will talk a bit about the dismemberment of Osiris's body. This is just a small part of the story. The story itself is very long, but you have probably heard something about it already. Osiris was a solar god, a luminous deity who had a very envious brother. There are a series of events in the story, but at one point, this brother traps Osiris himself in a chest, in a coffin, and later dismembers his body into countless pieces. And Isis was the wife of Osiris. Since the body of Osiris was scattered in pieces, depending on the version, the number varies, but it is always a symbolic number, and these pieces were spread all along the Nile, what did Isis do? She took her little boat and set out searching for the pieces of Osiris everywhere she could. She could not miss any. She had to find every single piece. Because when she finds the pieces, when she unifies them, she, being a goddess, magically breathes life into him and conceives a son with him, who is Horus. But if she had left any piece behind, hidden in some dark or muddy corner of the Nile, it would have been a part of the unity she would not have found. It would have been a piece of God that she would not have discovered. The body of Osiris would not be reassembled, and she would not be able to restore that unity. So what does this mean? Just this small part of the myth, bringing it into our everyday language, what does it mean to find the pieces of Osiris scattered everywhere? It is to see God in all things. In all things. If there is a situation in your life where you do not see a piece of Osiris behind it, that is a piece of unity you will not be able to assemble. It is something in your story that will always be missing a part. It is a piece of the puzzle of your life that you will not be able to put together. Do you understand this? No, it is not simple. Of course it isn't. Obviously, it is not simple. Because there are certain things in which it is very easy for us to see Osiris. In things that are beautiful, that are full of life, but in others, not so much. If we were able to find pieces of Osiris's body in every situation of our lives, at some point we would reassemble unity. We would complete this puzzle. We would understand the sacred meaning of our lives. So, among the many wonderful things that this myth contains, there is this detail, which is very important. I always like to share the Indian version, which has a part of an Indian myth that closely resembles this one. Does anyone here know the Ramayana? An Indian classic. The Ramayana has a passage, to summarize briefly, about a being named Rama, whose wife was stolen by a malevolent being, Ravana, and taken to an island. And Rama had a host of animals, because he was a divine being, a god. He had many animals who were serving him and helping him search for his wife, Sita. But how was he going to cross the ocean with that group of animals to rescue his wife? Now remember, this is a myth. He speaks with the god of the sea and manages to make it so that every stone he throws onto the ocean floats, forming a bridge. And thus he could cross the ocean, go to the island of Lanka to rescue Sita, with all the animals helping him. There were some enormous monkeys who carried a great number of stones. One of them, the largest of all and deeply loyal to Rama, was named Hanuman. He carried a huge load of stones to throw into the ocean. But the squirrels decided to help as well. Now, just imagine the monkeys carrying that huge load of boulders, while the squirrels, with their tiny little stones, squeeze themselves between the monkeys' feet, chittering away, carrying their little pebbles. And Hanuman, the largest of all the monkeys, was furious with those squirrels. It was unbelievable. He kicked the squirrel, saying, "Get out, squirrel, you're in my way." And the squirrel would go flying, causing a commotion. Until one day, the squirrel was deeply hurt and decided to complain to Rama. Of course, right? He went to make his appeal. So he arrived before Rama and said, "Rama, we want to take part too. We want to help you build your bridge, but Hanuman is picking on us." Then Rama, with great calm, took the squirrel, turned him over, and ran his finger along the squirrel's back. That left the white mark that remains on the squirrel's back to this day. And so the squirrels went there. Hanuman would come carrying the boulders, and there came the little squirrel. When he looked to pick on the squirrel, he saw Rama's finger mark on the squirrel's back. "Hey, wait a minute, everyone. Let's respect the squirrels. Be careful. Look, you're about to step on the squirrel. Let's take it easy, everyone. Let's respect the rights of the squirrels, okay? Oh, be careful with the squirrel." In other words, it was over. Why? because he sees that on the squirrel's back is Rama's finger. Whenever something is very painful for you, look to see if behind it there isn't Rama's finger. This is seeing God in all things. Do you see? It's the same idea, the same myth. To look behind the harshest, roughest situations. If there isn't a piece of Osiris's body, if there isn't Rama's finger, to integrate all things, that is the idea. And in general, the myth of King Arthur has a very famous scene, which is the one with the sword embedded in the stone, but I wanted to work with an earlier scene, which is when everything also begins with the sword Excalibur, because this is very fundamental and gives the key to this myth, which, by the way, is one of the myths I like the most. I greatly admire the myth of King Arthur. It is very interesting, isn't it? Imagine the following. The sword is always a symbol of human will, of your determination, of your capacity to overcome circumstances. The sword is like well-forged steel. When it is well-forged, there is nothing in the world that can stand against it. Where there is a will, there is a way. When it is well-forged, it can even pierce through rock, which is the symbol of Excalibur embedded in the stone, right? The human will, well-forged. But there is an interesting point. Within each human being, there exist two worlds, similar to those described by Plato. There is the world of elevated ideas, which is known as the world of being, that which we truly are, and a world of very base, ordinary desires, more connected to the Minotaur than to ourselves. These are the everyday desires more closely tied to our selfishness, our vanities, and our personal interests. While Excalibur, when it is out of the waters, it represents will. When it is within the waters, it represents desire. This is an ancient symbolism that I always use in every lecture here. It is not even my own example. Professor Jorge Angelo de Braga, who was the founder of New Acropolis, used to illustrate it in this way. The water. Do you see that no matter how you move a container of water, it always stays horizontal? Always horizontal. Water in myths in general is a symbol of matter. Always horizontal. What if I had a torch in my hand? Any way I moved it, the fire would always mount vertically? Always vertical. It is the cross of the world, spirit and matter. So it's something that, in general, works in myth. Things submerged in water are immersed in the material world. They have been swallowed by materialism. Floating on the waters, they are manifested, but have not been swallowed by materialism. That which rises above the waters has become spiritualized. This is a very common key. You will see that it applies to many things, right? So Excalibur above the waters means that our will is not limited to material things. We have elevated aspirations. We possess pure spiritual desires that respond to the needs of our being and not merely to fleeting things. We have true intentions. And if you remember the myth, when the wizard Merlin gives Excalibur to Uther Pendragon and says, "You will be king," when he's able to prove to himself that he truly possesses will, then he becomes worthy of being a king. Understand this. In a certain way, when you are able to draw Excalibur from the water, you are a king. You reign over yourself. You have subdued the Minotaur. You are the king of your own life. You have autonomy. You have sovereignty. You are the master of yourself. You are no longer a slave to instincts, nor to passions, nor to impulses. In a certain way, Merlin hands you this sword. We experience this when we are able to master ourselves in what is most superficial and trivial within us, and to have deep, elevated desires that give meaning to our lives. I brought this to you just so we can reflect on a few moments when Excalibur is out of the water. Which moments? If we have ever had any of these desires, of course these are not the only ones, just a few examples. If you have ever had any of these desires, in that moment you were a king. In that moment you were Arthur. You were wielding Excalibur above the water. Shall we see snapshots of Excalibur above the water? Starting from the very beginning, if you have ever had any of these desires, you were holding Excalibur in your hands. I want to be a positive force in the lives of those I am able to benefit, and I want to work to expand these possibilities. In other words, I want to make a difference in people's lives, in such a way that they become a little better for having known me. I want, when I reach the end of my life and look back, to be able to say, I added to people's lives, I made a difference in theirs and in my own. I left a little better than I was when I arrived, and I will strive to grow as much as possible so that I can help others grow as well. I truly want this from the heart. Who has ever wanted this? In that moment I was a king, wielding Excalibur. I was Arthur. Do you understand? Another possibility. I want to be worthy of possessing true and profound feelings that forge real, human, and lasting bonds. In other words, I want my connection with people to not be merely circumstantial, not just out of need, not just based on interests. I want to look into people's eyes and say, you will always be able to count on me because my feelings are profound. Nothing will be able to defeat them, perhaps not even death. I want to be worthy of feelings of such magnitude that they bind me definitively to the hearts of people, in such a way that no circumstance is capable of breaking true human feelings, nor the bonds of those who possess this capacity. I want to experience this at some point in my life. I want to forge deep bonds with people. Now, if you have ever wished for this, Excalibur was already in your hand. I want to always seek unity. That is, I want to be a source of harmony wherever I go. I want people to be more harmonious, both within themselves and with others. I want to be an element of cohesion, not of division, wherever I go. Have I ever wished for this? Excalibur was in my hand. Do you understand? Anything less than this? Well, I want to project myself. I want to be recognized. I want to possess certain things. I want to take revenge on someone. These are desires. Excalibur lies underwater, rusting. In that moment, you're a slave. Above that, you are a king. You are Arthur. Merlin recognizes the one who is able to wield Excalibur above the water. And thus is the essence of the myth. Now, what is Excalibur for? To whom does Merlin give Excalibur? To those who have a will that rises above the water. If everything you desire is beneath the water, what would be better? A spoon for eating soup, right? Or a fork? For those who only want things that belong to the material world, what use would Excalibur have? What is the purpose of will for those who only desire small things? For those who have no great dreams? For those who have no lofty aspirations? They will never wield Excalibur. Any ordinary utensil will suffice.